Hello. What's up, everybody? Sorry, I started a little bit late because I was chatting with Dave backstage. We're talking about Kenny G. Anyway, welcome to our live stream. We're going to be announcing the winners. We had a lot of entries. I think we had like, how many entries did we have? Let me check that again. Oh, I got rid of that. I think we had around 12,000 or something. That's great. So good luck, everybody. We're going to be announcing the prizes, which include a Better Sax EAS 112 Alto saxophone, the same one that Dave used in his videos. Make sure you check out those videos if you haven't already on Dave's YouTube channel. Just search YouTube for Dave Pollack. And I also wanted to let you guys know that at Sweetwater, there is, if you go to sweetwater.com, there's a sale going on right now. I'm going to put a link in the chat. It's a back to school sale. And one of the things that they're offering is a bundle of like the Better Sax Alto with a burn-in mouthpiece and a Jody Jazz power ring ligature and cap for one price at a discount. So if you're interested, check it out. They've got some other things like some reeds on discount and stuff like that too. So go check that out. Among the other prizes, we've got 3 winners are going to win a 30-minute Zoom lesson with Dave. So that's a great prize for 3 lucky winners. And everybody's going to get his PDF, which is called Strictly Major, I believe. So keep a lookout for that. And in case you don't win. And now I'm just going to bring Dave on, and he's going to help me announce some of these winners. And I see we got a lot of you live already, so good. Lots of people are hoping to see if they've won one of these. So let's welcome Dave. And as I welcome Dave, feel free to put in the chat where you're tuning in from, and if you want to say hello to us, we'd love to hear from you.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Jay. How's it going?
Good, man. Good. We were just having this great conversation about Kenny G, which is I don't know why it is every time I talk to you, that's what we talk about. But
I have nothing else to talk about.
And I mean, I can see his picture behind you.
Yes.
So
he signed that for me, actually. That's the board game, the Keeping It Saxy board game.
Nice. So, and this is great. We're getting more and more people are tuning in. And another
Awesome
reminder: once we announce the winners, we're going to do a live Q&A. So I asked people in the chat to put any questions, any good questions you have for either me or Dave or both of us in the chat. And once we've announced all the winners, we're gonna get to those questions. We'll answer them, and it'll be a fun conversation, as it always is with my friend Dave. So we've got somebody. I'm going to go and just say hello to some of these people here. We've got Julie from Ontario, Canada. Hello, Julie. We got Rufus from Stamford, Connecticut. We've got Jonathan from Uganda. Nice to have you here. Looks like you play trumpet and trombone. Nice. We got E.P. Evans from Kansas City, Missouri. Oh, lots of you here. Neville from Puerto Rico. Hello, Neville. We've got Jonathan from Belgium. We've got John from Arkansas. We got Graham from Lancashire. We've got New Zealand. Wow, we're spanning the globe today, Dave.
That's great.
We've got Tim from Cincinnati. What is that, Minnesota? MN?
Yeah.
Alto from Norway. Hello. Snow from Florida. That's ironic.
I like that.
We got Mike from Ohio. We got Dave from Niagara Falls. Well, he says Niagara Falls technician, so I'm assuming you're from Niagara Falls, Dave. We've got Yehoshua from, is that like a Joshua from Israel. And somebody saying, Sal saying hello from Georgia. David from New Mexico. Alejandro says he loves you. We've got Seth from Wisconsin. Man, there's lots of you guys. The Super Saxy Man from Kansas City, Missouri.
Awesome.
Oh, can we get the Sax Nerd for Life t-shirt as a bonus prize? Oh. Well, see. If enough people ask for it, maybe I'll throw one in. Yeah, we do live stuff. I haven't done one in a while, but I do them. And I do live in this Better Sax studio, which is our school, our membership school, where we have people every month. There's new lessons, and I keep going out of focus. There's new lessons and downloads and stuff like that. And in that, we do, just for the members, we do live streams with Steve Cortica every twice a month. And those are really fun. We play through all the stuff together, and we, answer questions and teach saxophone. All right. Wow. We got Gerhard from Munich. We've got
Somebody
Jamaica.
said they're from Jersey, by the way. Jersey.
Oh, yeah. Who's it? Wait, Alejandro. Oh, is from Jamaica. Okay, Alejandro's from Jamaica. Okay, I didn't see the Jersey one. Oh, here's Jersey.
John
We got
G.
Chris from Bristol. John from Jersey.
We pump our fists, not our gas.
Oh, that's right. Well, you don't have to pump gas in New Jersey. That's still a thing.
I hate gas. Here in Oregon, actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
It's terrible. It's a waste of time.
West Hartford, Connecticut. Julian. All right. And Ricky from Mount Pleasant. Okay, there's tons of you. So I'm sorry I can't say hello to everybody who's saying hello in there, but we got a lot of you. Love Jazz from Tampa Bay. Legacy Music School. Thanks for the love. Brian from Arizona. All right, everybody. Let's. Oh wait, we got Paul from Brooklyn. Wait, Paul from Brooklyn. Hello, Paul. Okay, and somebody else from the Bronx. Got some New Yorkers in there. Oh, look,
Hey,
look who it is.
What's up, Dom?
What's up, Dom? Oh, and look, we got Takudzwa from Zimbabwe. Nice.
Oh, sweet.
And Ciccio from Italy. Ciao, Ciccio. Staten Island. We got all the boroughs. Wait, we didn't have Queens. Nobody's from Queens? Mr. Quack from Denmark. Okay. All right.
Cool.
Cool. Let me get rid of that. Okay.
Am I blurry on YouTube? Because on the stream, on the back end, it's
You're
crispy.
just blurry in real life, man.
That's like Bigfoot. What if Bigfoot is actually blurry? All those pictures are actually clear. He's just really blurry.
I'm seeing you
On the back end,
somewhat...
it's perfectly clear. And then here, it's YouTube. It's a little just mine. Whatever, it's fine.
Yeah. As long as I'm looking clear, that's what really
true.
matters. So we got Argentina and Macedonia. Wow, you guys were really all over the place. Appreciate all you guys showing up. And we got Sal. Wait, Sal's from Jamaica. Hey, Sal. Jamaica, Queens. So, welcome. Oh, he was born in Jamaica, but you're not tuning in from there now. Okay. All right. And we've got a bunch of questions. So now, thanks for saying hello, everybody. Great to have you here. Remember, if you got any good burning questions you've been wondering about, be sure to leave them in the chat for us. Okay. So we're going to start with fourth prize. Okay. And fourth prize, we'll have Dave announce this one. You ready, Dave? I'm going to put it up on this. I'm going to put it up on the screen. All you got to do is read it.
Okay, yeah.
And this is and the fourth prize is winning a half-hour Zoom lesson with you.
Yeah.
So this is your future
fun.
student. And all winners are going to be getting your Strictly Major PDF.
Great.
And sometime after the show, Dave will be contacting all the winners via email.
Yep.
So here we go.
And just so that people know, the Strictly Major is cool because it's not only a giant exercise book for, PDF, but it also comes with a video where I go through the entire book and I play through all the exercise and I talk about each section, and it's a whole thing. So it's good. I think so. Are we ready?
There's our winner right there.
4th place, Pamela Swartz from Buffalo, New York, United States. Congratulations.
Yeah.
30-minute Zoom and
Pamela.
Strictly Major.
Yeah. So get ready for that, Pamela. And you organize that with, your timing with Dave. Dave's a great teacher. And let's go into 3rd place. This is another future student of yours. And this is interesting. You know what? I'm very happy to say that we've got our first 2 winners are both females. This is like rare.
So 3rd place, Amanda Morton from Denver, Colorado. Congratulations. I'll actually be in Denver in about a month. Actually, less than a month, 3 weeks. Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and this reminds me, something I forgot to mention.
Yes,
Well, already that's very cool to have 2 female winners. Like, it's rare we get any female winners. Because the saxophone world, I don't know if everyone is aware, like at least according to my analytics on YouTube, it's like 90% of the viewers of my YouTube channel are male. So, which is probably pretty representative of the saxophone world in general.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably getting a little bit more gender diverse. One thing I did want to mention, though, and anybody who entered the contest is, I'm sure, aware of it. The Better Sax podcast, started the podcast. It's been on my list of things to do, my long list of things to do, but I finally got it done this year. And I'm starting to add episodes every week about, a lot of the episodes are, audio versions of the YouTube videos, but I know a lot of people have been requesting that because, some people just want to listen in the car and they don't want to sit down for 15 minutes and watch a YouTube video. So make sure you subscribe and help me make that the #1 saxophone podcast in the world. That's my current goal with that. So we'll see over time. And hopefully you find the content to be high quality and something you want to listen to. Do you listen to podcasts, Dave?
A little bit, yeah. A few. Not a ton.
Like which ones?
Graham Cochran is one, the business guy.
Okay.
And
I don't know his name.
no, and one of my friends does a music podcast, Yardbird Entertainment. So I've listened to some of theirs, but not really. I listen to sports talk radio mainly.
I see.
Yeah.
I'm big into podcasts.
Yeah.
I don't drive a lot anymore, but when I do, I'm listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
So.
It's funny. I tell people that I drive a lot. I go to drive to work every day and I'm driving every day. I most of the time in the car, I'm driving in complete silence or sports talk radio. I just had the window down, just wind.
See, everybody's expecting us to be listening to music though. So
well, when I come, I teach 12 bands during the day and then 5 private lessons. I love that.
You need the break.
I have 6 big bands facing me 5 days a week. So, it's you need the break from the ears.
For sure. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and announce second prize. And this is our first international winner and our first male winner.
Okay. So if I butcher the name, I apologize. But second place is Guido Michaelis from Berlin, Germany.
I would say Michaelis. I would attempt my pronunciation there, from Berlin. Congratulations,
cool.
Guido. And Guido's going to win a 30-minute, he has one, a 30-minute Zoom lesson with Dave, as well as the Strictly Major PDF. You're going to have to send that to me, Dave, because I haven't checked it out.
Oh, thanks, Jay. Appreciate that. Big fan.
You should just send me that stuff when you make something, so I can check it out.
I thought I did. I made it like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Maybe, you know what? Maybe you did.
You trashed it instantly.
Wait, maybe you did. Maybe you didn't. I checked it out. It might be, it could have been like
you've ingrained it into your playing so much, you forgot about the exercises because they're so easy to work on. And they assimilate into your playing so well, you don't even think of it as an exercise anymore.
All right, now we're going to announce the first place winner. Now, I'm wishing everyone good luck. But after we announce the winner, stick around because we're going to be answering your questions, and we've already got a bunch of good ones. So keep them coming in the comments, and we'll have to, we'll scan for some of them because now there's a bunch. But good luck. Fingers crossed. Drum roll. Imaginary drum roll. You ready, Dave? This is for the winner of.
Ready.
This is for the winner of the Better Sax Alto saxophone that lots of people can't tell it apart from a Mark 6 when Dave plays.
Number one was definitely the Mark 6. Number one was definitely the Mark 6. They're both the Better Sax.
All right, here it is. Congratulations to Justin Morris from East Alton, Illinois. You have won a saxophone.
Yay.
Congratulations, Justin. I hope you're our saxophone player. But if you're not, you've got one. I bet most of the people that enter this contest are saxophone players. So Justin, you got a new, just slightly used,
it's good.
just ever so slightly played Better Sax Alto saxophone, and Dave will be shipping that to you.
Yeah,
very soon.
And I actually took care of this. I didn't put stickers on it. I didn't take it into the ocean. I didn't do any of this crazy stuff. Don't worry. This one I actually took care of, not like my own horn.
See, now I'm blurry. All right, so let's, now we're going to jump into like podcast mode, and we're going to answer questions. Hopefully we had some really good questions from you guys. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. And thank you to everyone watching the replay. And be sure to check out Dave's channel on YouTube and subscribe to that if you're not already. For those of you who don't know Dave, I'm sure you all know who he is. But if you don't, he puts out entertaining saxophone and musical content on his YouTube channel. And he's a world-class player. So make sure you check out his content. Now, let's jump into some of these questions. Dave, are you looking through the chat at all? I've got a bunch marked.
Yeah, I have a couple here. But
okay, well, keep an eye on those. While you answer some of these, maybe I'll look for some other ones, but I got a bunch already set up. So first question here from Christian Jackson. What reeds do you recommend for intermediate to advanced that would be affordable?
Oh, is this question for me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I'll answer it. I'll give my answer after you.
Oh, okay. Well, the term affordable, I guess, is dependent on what you consider affordable. But most reeds, I would say, are roughly around the same price. I mean, the variances aren't that big, but I mean, I'm a big proponent. I don't think it's a surprise of Boston Sax Shop reeds. I think they're great. And the biggest reason I think they're great is there's two reasons. They're really consistent, but also you can blow really hard with them if you want to, and they don't get really bright and thin like a lot of other reeds do. Once again, it's not really answering your affordable thing because I don't really know about that specifically, but Boston Sax Shop reeds I think are the best reeds out there, and I use them only on all my horns. So yeah, that's what I got to recommend.
Okay. I'm just finding lots of really good questions in the chat. Okay, so my answer to this question, what reeds do you recommend for intermediate to advanced and affordable? Yeah, I agree. It's, that's all relative. When you're getting reeds, the most important thing is that you're getting reeds that are made in France. Because, I say that not because I live in France and I'm being, it's not out of solidarity. It's just because, and they're all grown in this region in the South where I live. And it's just in my experience, other regions have not been able to duplicate the same consistency of the cane. I know they're grown in like Argentina and some places in Asia and stuff. And in my personal experience, I haven't noticed, those reeds just never work for me, regardless of the cut and all that. It's just the quality of the cane itself. So that's like the first step. And I know you can get cheap reeds from other places, but those are usually they're not really helping you. You're not really saving anything by getting a reed that doesn't play well, all right? So that would be like your number one criteria. The other thing I would say for reeds is feel free to try lots of different things because, you know, I remember when I first started, I was just playing one brand of reed because that's what my teacher played on, and that's like what you play. Now we have so many options for reeds. So if you ever, if what you're playing is working for you, great. But if you feel like you're still searching for stuff, try different things. I always tell people try lots of different things, and especially try different strengths of reeds. One thing I find is that a lot of people feel compelled to go to harder reed strengths, not for any practical reason, just because they feel like that's part of progressing is getting harder and harder reeds. I know I had that sort of concept. I've made lots of videos about this, but your reed, it depends on your tip opening, the way you play, lots of things. So don't just arbitrarily say I need harder, 3.5 reeds when, if it doesn't really suit you. So don't be afraid to experiment when it comes to reeds. And if you get the cheaper reeds, which are like, I think the Juno is the cheaper brand from Van Doren, and then there's the Rico, which are now D'Addario Orange Box. Those are on the cheaper side. They're very good. I mean, those reeds, the reality of those reeds is they're using the same cane. They're not growing the cane in like some field with a different amount of sunlight or something, or a different amount of rainfall. You know what I mean? It doesn't work that way. It's like with everything else. It's coming literally from the same plants and getting priced less. Well, it's got to be cut in the same way. I mean, how are they say, why is it cheaper? Maybe, I know the Orange Box, they would, they just kind of throw them in there without an extra sleeve and stuff like that. There's different ways like that. So cheaper reeds, it's one of those things, as long as it's being made in the south of France, it's going to be a good reed. Pretty much. Okay. Next, I had a couple something. Alejandro asked, how do you know where we're from? We know where the winners are from because when you enter the contest, it's based on your IP address. This is also how the contest app prevents people from cheating. So in order to make the contest fair, we make sure that everybody gets to enter once. A lot of people try to enter multiple times and cheat, and they automatically get disqualified by the app. So using different email addresses and stuff, but if you were doing it on your own, on the same computer or the same IP address, the same household, you'd get disqualified from the app. And the app has different ways to detect people cheating. So, but one of those things is it knows where you are when it knows your town, not your exact address, just your town. And then David asked, hey Jay, are there any plans for a better sax tenor? Yes, there are plans, and it is in the works, but developing these instruments does take a bit of time in getting it right. And now that we've done the alto, we've learned a lot in that process. So now the process of doing the tenor is incorporating a lot of the things that were learned from the alto. So it's going to be even better when that happens, hopefully. So yes, everything takes longer than you think as well, but I'm hoping, early 2023. That's what we're shooting for. Okay, another question, and we also put this out on Instagram. So I don't know if you got anything on Instagram.
I got one for you, Jay, and I'm going to ask
Sure.
this to you first, flipping it around on you. This is a less deep question. What's your favorite tune to call at a jam session?
Wow. Well, I haven't been to a jam session in a long time.
Good. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. So I don't have a favorite, but if I'm going to a jam session, the tune or, any situation where I'm going to be calling tunes, which basically like if I do a jazz gig, for me, that's just like a jam session because I'm just calling tunes that I know, right? I mean, like when I do, like the jazz gigs that I end up doing now are generally like, somebody says, oh, can you play here at this time? Or we need a band for this. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And I call some friends up and we play. And we don't usually rehearse or anything. We just kind of show up and call tunes, you know. So those tunes are going to be, there's a list of standards that I know that I expect other people to know. So there's like a list, and those are just, you know, the ones everybody kind of knows and should play. And then, but specifically, it's going to change. So I might be learning a new tune. Like this week, I've been learning My Shining Hour. So if I were to go on a jam session, that would be the tune I would call this week.
Nice.
You know, because I'm learning that tune. And when you're learning a new tune, the best way to to really get it inside you is to call it and play it on other, you know, to play with other people to test, like, have I really learned it properly?
Nice.
So yeah.
For me, it's got to be I've Never Been in Love Before. I love that song. It's nice AABA. It's good for people also if they don't really know it, because you can it's pretty diatonic. You can hear your way through most of it. And also you if people do know it, I love doing it where the last A section, it's in concert B flat. The last A section you do in D flat major every time. So it goes up a minor third for the last A after the bridge, which ends on the major third of D major. So it's a neat way to get back to the top. It's pretty cool. Great song.
And what tempo do you count that off at?
I like it in the pocket. Just right, just pocket. Like I think Oscar Peterson's version is my favorite version of it. So his trio version is just the most swinging thing ever.
Well, that's a good tempo to play. That's a double time on too.
You always got to set yourself up for success. You got to set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny you bring up My Shining Hour. I'm actually going to be having a bass sessions video come out this week where I'm playing on C Melody, My Shining Hour. So there you go.
A bass sessions. What's a bass sessions?
See, Jay doesn't watch my videos, guys. This is how a friend treats me. He doesn't even watch my videos.
I've seen you on a boat
That's
recently.
bass sessions. I'm out in a bay playing solo saxophone.
But how long has this existed?
I did like 3 videos last summer, and I did one that I posted a couple weeks ago. He's not a super fan, guys. So actually, I got another question here. Does Jay watch your channel? No, he doesn't actually. So he doesn't care about me or my channel, so it's fine.
I do watch a lot. Listen,
No, I'm just messing with you.
I'm sure.
Kidding.
I'm sure we can ask a few. You know, I'm sure there's a few better sax videos you may have missed.
Oh yeah. Listen, I'm not. Yeah, that's fine. It's So that was the next question. Do you got any more?
Yes, I do. Hold on. Wait, why is we got to get rid of the first place winner. Sorry. Back to comments. This was a question from Vincenzo. Will the stream stay on the channel just because I don't know if I'll be able to follow right now? Yes, this is going to be, you can watch the replay. So everybody can watch the replay. And if you're watching the replay right now, that's kind of a silly question to put up there, isn't it? Although some people watch the replay and they think they're watching it live, which... No, because we're acting like it's live, so it's understandable. They come across the video like, oh, they think they've come across this live video, and they comment like, oh, I really hope I win, you know. And it'd be like 3 days later, yeah. So I find that amusing when that happens. All right, I'm going to put this one up there. As a beginner, this is from Comrade Crab. As a beginner, how do you know when it's time to upgrade from a stock mouthpiece? Go ahead, Dave. Take a crack at that one.
So I played a stock mouthpiece through elementary school, middle school, into high school. I was on a Mark VI with a Yamaha 4C or Premier Height, whatever came with my thing when I got into high school. For me, you know, and Jay's better with the gear stuff than I am, but for me, I think the mouthpiece is probably the most crucial part because it connects you to the horn. But if there's no resistance, so the thing is, the biggest issue for me with stock mouthpieces is that the tip opening is really small. So they're meant to be for people, I guess, that have less air or something. So that's where I see the biggest issues is where people get older, they get larger, they blow more air, and that's when it actually constricts it down, and then they get a poor sound with it. If you're not at the point where that's happening, I think it's still fine. But I would also say that upgrading the mouthpiece is probably the best thing you can do. I would definitely upgrade a mouthpiece before the horn. I would do it definitely in the reverse order that I did. I did it wrong just because I didn't know. I didn't have let me put it this way. When I got my Mark VI, YouTube didn't exist for another 4 or 5 years yet. So I didn't know about all this stuff. So I would definitely say, try stuff. But if you feel like you're practicing and if you're watching Jay's videos, obviously you care about saxophone, try some different mouthpieces, because the barrier for entry price wise too is way lower than a horn or, some of these other things.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with all that. I would say as a direct answer to that question, if you're a beginner and you're wondering when to upgrade, like, are you playing every day? Are you taking the saxophone serious? Are you, are you playing at school every day in band or something? Like, if you're playing every day and you're starting to get a good sound and you're serious about saxophone, then you could start thinking about upgrading your mouthpiece for sure. Because those, like, if you have, there is stock mouthpieces that are good, and there's some stock mouthpieces that are really, really terrible as well. So if you have, and if you're a beginner, there's no way really for you to know. But if you have a Yamaha 4C, it's a decent one. And if there's a bunch like the ones that come with the better sax now, those are good ones. But there are some that come with some of the the horns that maybe you get on Amazon or something that are really, really bad, and I would recommend replacing them right away, even if it's just with the Yamaha 4C or something, or 5C. Because if it's not if it's not straight, you're just going to hurt you. It's just going to make the learning process harder, and you're going to be asking yourself, why do I sound so bad? Why can't I get a sound? Why am I squeaking all the time? And it's not actually because of anything you're doing. So start with a good stock mouthpiece if you can first, and as soon as you're taking the saxophone seriously, you could start thinking about upgrading. You don't want to spend a ton in the beginning when you're upgrading, because in that development stage, you're going to be, your playing is going to evolve rapidly in the first several years, So I say no point in getting a $500 mouthpiece, in your second year of playing saxophone. Get a $100 mouthpiece, $150, $200 mouthpiece, something in there, and then see where you go, and see what direction, what sort of music you're playing, what sort of players you're into, and what styles you want to play, and go from there. And then enjoy, because there's lots of great mouthpieces out there, and that's one of the fun parts of playing saxophone. Okay, here's a question, a music-related question. Could you boys please explain diminished scales and their best use? Well, how much time do you have?
I could do a quick one here.
Sure.
So quick overview. There's only 3 diminished scales, because it's an octatonic symmetrical scale: whole step, half step, whole step. There's only 3 different ones. There's 2 ways that I use them. One, if you have a diminished 7 chord, right? You have a passing diminished, you have some type of diminished chord like C diminished. You would play or think C whole half diminished, C, D, E flat, F, Or if you see a dominant 7 chords, just say we have C7, what you would do is either, and this is where it's dealer's choice here, you would either play C half whole diminished, which is also the same thing as C sharp whole half diminished. So however you want to think of it. If you want to only learn one thing, I'm always about efficiency. Some people call it laziness. I call it efficiency. For me, I only learn 3 diminished scales. I always think of them as whole half. So when I see C7, I go, oh, that's C sharp diminished scale. It's just a whole half diminished based off the flat 9. Or if you want to think half whole, play C, because that's what gives you that diminished sound over top of dominant chords, which is like the Brecker thing all over there. And I mean, not just Brecker does it, but that's the easiest way is for me, those 2 spots you can use them. There's other places too, but those are the 2 main uses for me.
Yeah. I would just add to that. Diminished is, you get a lot of mileage out of learning 3 scales, right? I mean, like, that's like in playing jazz, like once you discover, like, whoa, this is actually so easy compared to having to learn, it's like 12 of each scale. You only have to learn 3 for diminished, and it's the symmetrical pattern. So I would say learn those 3, and I don't even think of them as like C sharp or D so much. I just think this is this sort of pattern, this group, and this thing, and also make sure you're not just thinking scale wise with diminished. You really want to think of the arpeggios as well, and combining, and the patterns. There's so many great patterns. And that's when it gets more interesting, practicing wise, and then when you start putting it in over the chords. Because you will find if you just try to plug in the scale in the beginning, it'll feel a little bit awkward because you're not necessarily always landing in the right spots. So make sure you're hearing those chord tones. And it gets, it depends if you're on a diminished chord or if you're on a dominant 7 chord, you're getting into some more theory stuff that you need to really understand well. But yeah, learn those diminished scales because you get a lot of mileage out of them.
It's funny. I specifically never practiced a lot of those patterns. That's a personal thing. Like I never liked when I hear someone so like like that drives me nuts. If I ever did that, I would just stop playing. I'd be like, no, stop it. Like I'm not a fan of those because I think they stick out so much to me. I just hear them. I'm like, they're good to know. It's one of those things where I think it's good to know and know how to use them. All those patterns, but I always shied away from them. That's a personal choice.
Wow, it's good enough for Bird, but
Well, he doesn't just use them like just
no, but he has a couple that he uses a lot. I mean, everybody has a few.
He's allowed to play Bird licks. He's not copying anybody.
Oh, okay.
Well,
I think we're all allowed to play Bird licks.
Oh yeah.
Okay, this is an interesting question. What's the best embouchure, teething or lipping? So I think you're meaning like top teeth on top of the mouthpiece versus double lip. And this maybe this comes up because I recently did this interview with Joey DiFrancesco, and he was talking about how he's playing double lip embouchure. So what kind of embouchure do you use, Dave?
I guess a standard teeth on top, lip on the bottom. But my buddy Adam Larson for years and years and years did double lip. And I remember he was trying to switch from it because he just wanted to switch, I think, to make it, I don't know if it was hurting him or whatever, but it was hard for him because he learned that way. I do the normal way, but I try not to do this either, like way too far, like the clarinet thing. Like a lot of teachers teach beginner saxophone players to they're like, just put your bottom lip over your teeth and they go really far. And then you get that really deadened kind of, that's why they sound really hot. Everything's sharp and squished.
Right. That's like a clarinet. You're right that you mentioned that it's like a clarinet thing. I bet. And my first saxophone teacher was a clarinet player. I don't remember if he told us to do that with the lip, but that's interesting. And it's funny because if you're a saxophone player and then you go to play clarinet, you often find that you're flat.
Yeah, because they're tall.
Because you're not squeezing and you're not biting down to that thing like crazy.
Saxophone players have super lazy embouchures, which I think is good. Like I go for the Dick Oates school where he says there should be zero tension. You should be able to pull the mouthpiece out of your mouth with zero, just everything, let it fall. That's how I play. I always think I'm always blowing down underneath the mouthpiece when I think. So when you play clarinet though, for me it's like, my jaw hurts. I play for 5 minutes. I'm like, oh God.
Yeah. And I have to, I don't play clarinet anymore, but I always had to have like the shortest barrel possible, because So clarinet, the stick of pain.
Rich Perry called it the black stick of death, I think.
I don't miss it.
Tough.
I don't miss the clarinet at all.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. So clarinet players going to saxophone, my advice to them, and this is kind of unrelated to the question, but clarinet players going to saxophone, I was saying, you got to really loosen up extreme because you're used to this really tight embouchure. And saxophone players going to clarinet the other way around, otherwise you're always going to be flat. So, what's the best embouchure? The best embouchure is the one that works for you. It's easier to play with teeth on top. I think there's no question about that. Do you get any benefit from using a double lip embouchure? If double lip embouchure is only for people that have very strong embouchures, first of all, because you need more muscles. It's just a physical requirement. So if you're playing every day, you'd be able to handle the double lip embouchure, but you need to develop more strength. The benefit you're getting from it, I don't know if there's any benefit for doing double lip. So some people, like Adam, maybe he started playing that way for whatever reason, and then he was like, why am I doing this? Why am I making my life harder? So he switched. I know people who have switched to double lip because they wanted to try to get more of this sort of a different, it changes the sound. I tried it for a while because I was studying with Antonio Hart, and he does a double lip embouchure, but he switched to it if I remember correctly. He didn't
Interesting.
start playing double lip, but then like some of his heroes were playing double lip, and he was like, "Oh, I got to check this out now." But I might be remembering that incorrectly. But then while I was there, me and some of the, a lot of the other students, we all tried it, just to try, try stuff, And if you try it, it doesn't take long to get it. You spend a week and you'll start to be able to play in tune and stuff. And you'll notice like, oh, there's something different. But then you also notice like, oh, I'm going to have to work harder. And I said, well, why would I want to work harder? So I stopped that. So I would say, if you're deciding which way to go, I would go teeth on top, make your life easier. That's my answer. Let's see. Oh, and kind of related, what are some embouchure strengthening exercises? Got any of those for us, Dave?
You're probably once again better at this stuff than I am. I just pick up the horn and play. I don't really think about this, but and I never really did any of these, which is probably why my embouchure isn't good. But for me, it was always about getting around the horn. So arpeggios and large intervals always helped me. So start by playing scales and thirds, scales and fourths, scales and fifths, scales and sixths, scales and sevenths, and then octave jumps, slurred, da-ee-ah, like a chromatic scale in slurred octaves, with every note being perfectly in tune. That's the key, is always check yourself. Don't just play the note. For me, it's like a flute thing, where you practice like doing to work on your embouchure, or like the trumpet. Like I play trumpet. So thinking about doing like lip slur type exercises, but on saxophone. I guess you could do it with the overtone thing too, but that's a whole separate thing. So maybe just work on, doing octave jumps or start with thirds and fourths, but thinking about getting the note in tune right out of the gate. I was never a long tone person, so I'm never going to recommend doing long tones, but playing for longer periods of time also strengthens it, as long as you're keeping track of the intonation throughout. The biggest thing is people always talk about the length of time they practice. Oh, I held a note for 2 minutes. I practiced for 4 hours yesterday. Well, if the sound gets terrible after 5 minutes, but you just keep going out of tune, flat, you can't control it, that's not helping you. That's just reinforcing bad habits. Remember, practice makes permanent, not perfect. So keeping that embouchure, keeping that thing there, and as steady as you can for as long as you can, I think would stabilize it.
Yeah, for me, embouchure strengthening exercises is just playing the saxophone. I don't do any, I was shown these things like, do this and try to do, like if you're limited, like if you want to do something in the car, like while you're driving, like because you can't practice acting, you could try to, make your face into all sorts of crazy things.
It's not that you can't play saxophone while driving a car. Trust me. We don't recommend it for all of you out there for safety reasons. Don't do it. Don't be like me.
Oh, was this another YouTube video I missed?
Well, sort of, but I also did it on the highway one time as a joke. Me and my friend were jamming. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's not safe.
You just need a Tesla with autopilot, and then you can.
Yeah,
you can practice and drive at the same time.
If Better Sax pays for it, I'll drive it.
Wait, where was I? Oh yeah, so
right.
Embouchure strengthening exercises. Just play the saxophone every day. If you play the saxophone every day and you have a good setup that's not biting, having a strong embouchure allows you to not have to bite, basically, because you're strong enough to control the vibration of the reed without, I don't know how else to describe it, but as your embouchure gets stronger, that allows you to loosen up. And you'll find, like, if you're not if you stop practicing for a while and you come back to it, your muscles will be weak and you will feel this tendency to want to bite harder. It's like your teeth and your jaw are compensating for the weakness of the muscles. You see what I mean? Because you could always just clamp your jaw down. But what we want to be able to do is use these relatively very weak muscles in our face to put gentle pressure on that reed, just enough to keep it vibrating the way we want to. If we don't have enough strength, we bite, we just clamp our teeth down to compensate for that. This lip gets really thinned out and basically doesn't act as a cushion anymore. And then the sound goes out the window, and everything goes out the window. And then you can't possibly do like large intervals like Dave was talking about if you don't have that. This needs to be flexible, because this is something I remember being taught in classical saxophone lessons, that your embouchure should stay the same all the time. And that's like a good, like you could, like I say, yeah, you could strive to keep your embouchure the same all the time, but there's no way that's impossible. There has to be these micro adjustments for every note. That's what's happening all the time. You don't necessarily want really wild movements, but if you're looking at any the great saxophone players and watching videos of them, you're going to see the embouchure moving all over the place as they go around a horn. So yeah, your embouchure can move. The important thing is that you're not biting and that you're letting the air do the work of getting the reed vibrating. You know, it's not a matter of like forcing notes out by squeezing harder with your teeth. I know a lot of people end up doing that. Like, you want to get your embouchure to the point where you're able to just blow the air, and then you have this very precise control. And I do practice long tones. I haven't been doing them lately, but I have spent a lot of time doing long tones, and that's where I find you can really hone in on what every micro movement, whether it's in your throat or in your embouchure, how that's affecting individual notes. And every note on the horn is different. Like there's a separate thing. So if you just sit on one note for a while you're focusing on keeping on your embouchure and just kind of meditating on that, that's when you can be like, it's when you can kind of discover for yourself what happens in your body and, you know, in these muscles that makes those little changes. Now it's in tune. Oh, now the sound is better. Oh, now the sound is rounder. Now I'm able to play softly in that range, whatever. There's all these variables. So that's what I find playing long tones helps me with. But yeah, if you don't want to play long tones, you don't have to play long tones, but just play the saxophone and that'll build up your embouchure strength. All right. Here's a question from Seth. For someone looking to get more into jazz, how would you recommend finding your swing and rhythm in new pieces?
This is a big one for me.
Go for it, man.
Listen. How do you get why do Australian people have an Australian accent? Why? Why do babies born in wherever speak with a certain way? Why? Listen. But not just passive listening. For me, it's all about the active listening. If I always talk about reference recordings, like when I play any song, I always like to have whatever tempo it is or style. I always like to have a recording in my head that I reference. It doesn't have to be the same song. For example, the Oscar Peterson thing. If I'm playing any pocket tune, I'm hearing him play, or I'm hearing Ella Fitzgerald's live version of Mac the Knife. The way she swings that melody and her articulation and phrasing is what I use when I play saxophone, or the way Clark Terry plays with the Oscar Peterson Trio. That one live concert is a great one. But anything Clark plays. But I always have reference recordings. So if you want to swing more, remember, it's called swing feel, not swing count. So don't come at it from a theoretical perspective or an analytical perspective. Come at it from what it is, and that's a feel thing. So emulating people, you know, I'm big on transcribing smaller patterns or whatever. You can even transcribe just rhythms. That's something that I like to do when I was trying to get my feel down. Was don't worry about the notes someone plays, but if they play a line, don't worry about the notes. Play a major scale. Oh, that wasn't a major scale, but you know what I mean. So just thinking about that feel. But when you listen to recordings, don't worry about, if you're listening for feel and rhythm and time, don't be worried about the harmony. Don't worry about their tone quality. Don't worry about the interaction with the band. Only focus on that one element. That's active listening, because you're listening for a purpose, for a listening purpose. You're trying to pull something from that recording. Just like bandwidth on Wi-Fi, you can't download a million things on a million computers. You can't focus on every element of their performance equally. So don't listen for their time and also their tone quality and also their harmony and also their substitute. Listen for time. And don't only listen to your own instrument too. Like I just said, I gave 3 examples. Clark Terry plays trumpet, Ella Fitzgerald, vocalist, Oscar Peterson, piano. None of them are saxophone players. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't listen to saxophone players, but don't limit yourself to one instrument. So for me, it's just all about listening. What is your goal? If you want to play bebop, there's a specific set of articulation and rhythms that's going to be different from playing like an old school jump swing or this or that. So really, to me, it's all comes down to listening, active listening, and getting that recording and getting that sound into your head. So when you're playing, you're not counting while you're playing what you know it should sound like. Just like my accent, I'm not thinking about it. It's just ingrained in me from, when I was little. And that's my perspective.
Okay, I hear your dog barking. That's a great answer. Yeah, I totally agree. You got to listen. You have to listen. And, taking that to the next level, it's one thing to listen, but if you want to sound like that, you also have to participate in the conversation and speak. And the best way to do that, starting out at least, is to play along with a variety of players, and they don't have to be saxophonists. They can be singers. In fact, I tell people all the time, just in my video this week, I said, singers, like, copy the way singers phrase, because that's what. And the thing is, the more you do that, and mixed with transcribing saxophone players, you're going to realize, you're going to hear that saxophone players, the ones that we're all studying and listening to, they were doing that. It's so clear the way they're phrasing. They're copying singers a lot of the time, when they're really playing melodically. So that's the key. So play along, do that a lot. With the recordings in your ear, you listen, you get it in there, and then play along. And it's not just about getting the notes and the rhythms right. Like, that's just one part of the project. And you can hear, like, when you listen to people transcribing, like, okay, they learned the notes of the rhythm, great, but you haven't done, like, the thing that makes you swing or sound like you have the accent, which is the articulations, all the subtle. There's so many subtle little things. And this is the stuff that it's really hard to teach. You can't teach somebody. Even articulation is kind of tricky to teach because it's so organic and so different from one player to the next. And there is not one right way to do it. And people that articulate well, the only way they learned how to do it was by listening and transcribing it, So it's not a cop-out answer when people ask me, it's like, that's the way you learn it. Like, how can you teach an American accent? You can't teach it. You have to learn it orally. That's it.
Yep.
So, all right. We've got a lot of more questions. Got tons of really good questions. We won't probably be able to get to all of them, but let's try to answer a few, and I'll try to do some faster answers. So fast answer here. Who won the Battle of the Eternal Triangle?
Sonny Stitt.
Sonny Stitt. Yeah.
Yeah. not that Sonny Rollins isn't ridiculous, but for me, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm going to transcribe one of those solos, I'm going to transcribe Stitt's solo on it.
Nice.
Let's see. This is Jay Dave. Also, what do you do to highly recommend doing to keep your instrument in good maintenance? What do you do what do you recommend to keep your instrument in good maintenance? I've made lots of videos about this. Number one thing everybody needs to do, swab your saxophone out. Like, if you're not swabbing your saxophone out, it's gross. Okay, you have to swab it out. And your mouthpiece. That's it. If you just do that one thing after every time you play, your saxophone will be in so much better condition long term. A set of new pads, instead of lasting, it depends on how much you play. But like for a player who's playing every day and never swabbing out their horn, those can get really nasty after even a year or a few years. All my saxophones, I swab them out every time. I mean, the pads are going to last longer than me. Going to last a lifetime. And there's no reason they shouldn't. If you got good pads in there, if you take care of your horn, they'll last literally forever. You might have to change like the palm key pads or whatever. But even those, I use these little things now that clean those out. And I have on my website, bettersax.com, you can order a swab kit. If you don't have one of those, just order one of those. Use it every time you play, and you're good. You will have so many fewer trips to the repair technician as a result. That's pretty all you need to do. And then it's good to go to a repair technician once a year, twice a year if if you can afford that, just to have an adjustment. And there's always going to be little things that go out on any saxophone, little leaks that develop. As soon as your saxophone is all set up, new leaks start forming. A really good setup saxophone, it's going to stay relatively leak-free for a while, but little micro leaks are always happening all different places on the horn. So if you go visit a good repair technician once a year and swab out your horn, for basically, maybe $50 to $100 per year, plus a one-time investment of a good swab kit, and you're out of trouble like for a long time. Okay, let's see. I've got a bunch more down here. I have to scroll down. Okay, we answered that one. Question. I got a weird question. How can one check if a secondhand Yamaha is authentic? Well, I'll put it this way. There are some saxophones. There are lots of phony counterfeit saxophones out there. There's not so many, and it depends on the company. And there are more of some companies, counterfeits of some companies than others. And that's because some companies are very aggressive in protecting their trademarks, and other companies don't care. So Yamaha is one of those companies that like people don't counterfeit as much because the risk of getting sued is much greater. So I've never seen a counterfeit Yamaha. Okay, so that's just my own personal experience. Like Yanagisawa, you're going to see tons of counterfeit Yanagisawas because they're just interested in making saxophones. They're not really into like the whole lawyer thing so much. It has to do with resources. They're a smaller company, so it has to do with the company's resources. Selmer, for example, they are very aggressively are going to go after anybody infringing on their copyrights. So, that's all the best. Have a professional saxophone technician look at it, and they'll tell you right away. But it's unlikely there's a Yamaha that's not authentic out there. What is this? Sometimes my octave key flap, not the one on the neck, but the one on the side, gets a bit stuck. Yeah, well, it got sticky. So one thing you could do is, clean it. Try cleaning it with a little bit of soapy water and a Q-tip. Okay. Sometimes those things get sticky, and use one of these like microfiber swabs to clean it out, and hopefully it'll get unsticky. If you can't, that's a pad that can be changed by if you can't get it to stop sticking, a technician can change that for you. That's a 1 minute pad. That's like the easiest pad to change on a saxophone. Next, okay, this is interesting. As a beginner, I find that I get what I describe as stale air, where I feel like I have air left over but can't get out with it until I blow it out and then inhale. How do you fix this? Well, you can't. You're exactly right. You have to empty. So before you take a breath, you've got to empty your air tank. This is like if you're swimming. Imagine you're swimming. If you want to get a full air tank so you could stay underwater longer, you have to empty out all of the used air. We take air in, our lungs take the oxygen out of it, and then we still have air, but there's no oxygen, so it's useless to us. We can't really use it. We can blow it out into a saxophone. We can use it for that. But the problem is, if you don't empty out your air tank, when you inhale again, you're stacking good air on top of bad air. You don't have room, and you will very much, you'll have much less time in between needing to take another breath. So empty the air tank out of the bad air with no oxygen, and always try to start with a fresh, new, full breath with oxygen in it whenever you can. Anything you want to add to that, Dave?
Nope. Yeah, it's as simple as that. It happens to everybody. It's not just a beginner thing or whatever. Yep.
Yeah, just practice. I tell people, but a lot of people aren't aware of this until somebody kind of tells you. So, and it's interesting you're asking the question, so you're already aware. Blow it all out. Make sure there's nothing else. Practice doing that, and practice taking full breaths. One problem a lot of people in the early stages they do is they take these little half breaths. They're not filling up with air. Get in the habit of taking a full breath every time. There's no point in taking tiny little half breaths so you can play a few notes. What mouthpiece would you recommend for Barry sax jazz playing that is under $100? There's not too many. I know a lot of people have had success with these Rico Metalites, or there's these two Rico mouthpieces, Diodario now. They're made out of plastic. They're way under $100. They work. You know, they're pretty. You know, look for those. When do the better sax reeds come out? Who knows? Maybe sooner than you think. Have you ever played a fibercell reed? Have you ever played a fibercell reed, Dave?
Nope, never.
No, okay. I've played them on clarinet. They're actually pretty reed-like, you know. But they do, yeah. I've tried lots of synthetic reeds, and I just can never. They never can replace cane for me. They're trying. I think they should keep working on it, but it just doesn't. It just doesn't do it. I ask myself. I know I have friends that play on them, great players, and I'm like, how do you do it? You know?
I don't know.
But it's not from a lack of trying. You know, people all the companies send them to me all the time. I try them. I've spent weeks on them. You know, I'm just like, oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Great video with 10 reasons why Avery's sax performance was stellar. If you could only choose one reason, what would it be? I'm thinking rhythm. Okay, so Laura's question is referencing the video I published yesterday about Avery Dixon. Avery Dixon is this young saxophone player who has been on America's Got Talent. Have you seen this, Dave?
No, I didn't watch the video yet. I saw the video, I saw that you posted it. I didn't get it around to watch.
No, but I mean, have you seen this guy Avery playing?
No, I haven't.
I saw it because he was playing a DV mouthpiece, and I saw Jody from Jody Jazz, who makes that mouthpiece, posted it, and I was listening. Oh, this is cool, and I checked it out, and I was like, wow, you know, and it's amazing. He's on like one of these major network TV shows, millions of people watching this kid playing amazing on a saxophone. It's just like this incredible performance. So I was like, wow, this is so cool. So I decided to make a YouTube video about it. That's the context of this question. Anyway, out of all those reasons, I don't have them all written down in front of me, but some of them we've already talked about, like the listening. You know, just listening to him play, I can tell that he's listened to singers. He was playing a Stevie Wonder song. I can tell he knows that music. He's got it. He grew up with it. He understands how to phrase a melody and how to phrase improvised, lines on a saxophone. That comes from listening. So, yeah, some of those are definitely more important than others. And just, off the top of my head, I would say that is probably the most important one overall, long term. Like, you cannot attack this, saxophone thing without the listening part. Like, it's never going to happen for you. Like, if you want to play improvised music, or whether it's jazz or pop music or any sort of popular music styles, it's never going to, because they are all part of this, what we call Black American music. They're all, trees on that, branches on that tree, right? And it's a very oral music. Classical music is too. Western classical music is as well. You got to listen to great players do that too in order to get the style and get it down. But in this music, we don't have like the sheet music reference, and most of what we're doing, we can't even really notate on the sheet music anyway. So much more of it, we're really relying on our ears and listening. So if you're not listening, it's just never going to happen. Like, all the other stuff doesn't really matter so much.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna look at one or two more of these, and then we're gonna call it. So here's one. I know how much Dave loves questions like this from Josh. What scales are the most important to master? Pentatonic, blues, etc.
Well, practically speaking, the pentatonic scale you can use in more situations than the blues scale, because it's just a blues scale minus if we're talking minor pentatonic, which is just a relative minor of major pentatonic. It's the same as a blues scale minus the sharp 4, so you can use it in more situations.
I think he's talking about all scales, though. I mean, I use just like out of all scales, what would be the most important?
Sorry, I thought you were talking about those two. The major scale. Well, the chromatic scale, but the major scale. For me, especially the music that I play, 98% of the stuff that I play is based on the major scale. Now, it might not sound like that. Every minor chord I see, I think of it as a major. I approach it with a major sound. Every sus chord I see, major sound. Every dominant chord, major sound. Every major chord, major sound. For me personally. So,
Or are you thinking?
scale.
Are you saying you're thinking the modes based on your major
Kind of, yeah.
scale?
Sort of, yeah. Like, so when I see D minor 7, I'm thinking I play over it as if it's F major 7 for the most part. I always think relative, like if I see C7 sus, to me that's just a B flat major 7 chord. So I approach it as such. So then I really only practice playing major stuff, and then I just apply that sound to whatever I see. Because I don't want to learn minor stuff and then have to practice major stuff for me. I never wanted to learn more than I needed to. So like when I play, like I don't know, it might sound like I play different stuff, but most of the stuff I play is based off major.
Sure.
So that's just me personally. And the way, I might suck at saxophone. You're like, yeah, that's why you suck, because you don't want to learn major. But that's the way I play. So it's a personal thing. So major
No,
scale for me.
I would agree that you got to learn your major. You got to, before you, like, if you're talking about scales, you have to master the major scale first to get around the instrument, and you're going to get more mileage out of out of the knowing your 12 major scales than any other group of notes. So definitely most important to master the major scales. And if you're thinking, when you're thinking of pentatonic blues or any other scale, we're kind of referencing the major scale anyway, just to even understand how to construct those scales. So all of our music, our Western music, is just based on that. Anyway, so definitely, I tell everybody, and I did a video earlier this year called How I Learned All 12, my major scales in all 12 keys or something like that. Watch that video, do that. Learn them all. That's like your starting point. Once you do that, once you learn those major scales and all 12 keys, then you can start like learning other stuff. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like now you're like, okay, that's the ticket. That's your, your entry fee to start really learning music.
Because whenever we talk about alterations, if we say flat 9, that's based off of its major thing. So if I say a dominant 7 chord is 1, 3, 5, flat 7, you have to know what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are, and that's based off the major key. So it's all comes back.
That's our home base.
Yeah.
Okay, this has been fantastic. I'm going to ask one more. This is the last one from John G. Was this the one from Jersey?
Probably, yeah. I think, yeah, awesome.
John asks, what do you recommend for players who transition from alto or tenor to soprano sax? Like starting mouthpiece size, embouchure, etc.
Well, it's tough. Soprano's really difficult to play well, like play in tune, get around. For me, especially coming from even alto, but I could imagine it's even harder coming from tenor. You have the literal size of the mouthpiece. I don't know about you, but for me, that was the hardest part. I had always played hard rubber. I never played metal, alto, or tenor, so I'm used to a bigger mouthpiece. So just the literal size was tough. But I guess it's just like you said before, just get on the horn more. The best way to get better at playing soprano compared to alto would be, I guess, get used to the embouchure, get used to where the notes lie, because it's going to be different voicing. It's going to be different intonation from bottom to top. Mouthpiece size and stuff, I'm not too sure. Maybe you can answer that. But for me, I always like a somewhat harder read on soprano, because then I feel like I can blow a little harder like alto and it doesn't overblow the size of the mouthpiece. The same thing with clarinet. I play kind of a harder read on clarinet, like a half step harder in number than I do on alto. Same thing with soprano. But yeah, just get on the horn. You just got to play it. Don't the big thing I can say, even when you're doing doubles of like clarinet, flute, but especially if you're doing a double from alto or tenor to soprano, is don't just pick it up for 5 minutes in the middle of your practice session. Make it a main focus, because that balance of, if you played alto for 10 years and now you're picking up soprano, you're way behind on the horn. Yeah, the fingerings and notes and stuff are going to be the same, but you got to get up to that, you got to get up to that level of proficiency.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you switch, whether from any saxophone or any other instrument, you got to just make that your main instrument for practicing. So if you play alto and you want to start playing tenor, just play tenor like every day maybe for years. I did that at some point where I just said, and that's the only way you're going to get a sound on that instrument. I think you can't, otherwise it's always going to be a double. You know what I mean? So it has to be your main horn for a significant period of time. And then you can go back, and this is the thing you'll find. If you did that, let's say you went from alto to tenor, and you just spent 6 months or a year just practicing every day on tenor. Then you go back to alto, and you're going to take all this stuff you learned from kind of relearning an embouchure and a sound concept on a tenor, and now you're going to be able to enrich your alto playing with what you learned, you know, how you kind of relearn to play the saxophone using the tenor. And then when you go to soprano, you got to do the same thing. You just got to play soprano every day. And the longer you do that, you know, the better your sound is going to be. And then you're going to learn, you're going to have an even deeper understanding of how the saxophone works, and you know, the small saxophone works. And then you're going to be able to take that over to your alto and tenor playing, and it just benefits you. But a lot of people don't do that, you know, and for the reason being, like, you know, it's a huge investment of time. So some players like, I play alto and soprano, or I play tenor and soprano, or whatever, you know, they choose one or two and they kind of specialize in those. It's, you know, it's rare you're going to find somebody who's got an amazing sound on all four horns, for example. There are people that do that, but they invest a lot of time, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it'll always be a double for me. Yeah, you know, it's never going to be a main one, soprano or tenor.
But one day, if you were to just shed soprano every day for a year, that, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But that's what it takes.
Yeah,
I haven't done it. You know, I certainly haven't done it. But it's like I would like to be able to, you know, because I know that's the only way I would even be comfortable listening to myself play soprano. You know, would be if I spent the necessary time. All right, that's been great. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Dave. Thanks everyone for your questions. Congratulations to all of our winners, and we will see you guys soon on YouTube, Instagram, newsletters, what have you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
All right. Yeah, man. Thank you, Dave. Bye, everybody.